For Deloitte Ignite, focusing on the essence of a myth, which is Prometheus, and Agni. Agni is a Sanskrit word for fire, and it comes from the Vedas, which are very old texts. There's a great parallel between the two stories of Agni and of Prometheus. The first thing which comes to mind is a cycle. So fire goes to ether and it comes back. It's always this cycle which repeats. And also in the myth of Prometheus, there's this sense of this repetition, the ego coming every day and ripping his liver out. And the essence for me, after a lot of research, is passage, the rite of passage. And it's really important to be able to take a myth and make it sort of relatable to people in this day and age as well. I mean, though the subject, for me, passage becomes very ritualistic, it's very primal in its instinct. So all the movements are quite coming from the ground. This idea of this energy being awakened and then it manifesting on stage and then coming back to zero again. We've got 5 dancers: Natalie, David, Teo, Tara and Laura. And these dancers, of course, are trained and are working in the Royal Ballet. And in terms of the choreography, what was important for me was to find an intermedium between 2 forms, because I've not trained in ballet. So for me to find, it's almost like it becomes a confluence where 2 opposite cultures come together, which is also the idea of the myth as well, which is one is from a Greek legend and one is from an Indian philosophy. So I really wanted to find a language between these dances. So what we've been doing is we've been workshopping and trying many different things, and to find something which becomes ritualistic and a language which is primal that people understand instinctively rather than boxing them into particular formats or forms. I'm collaborating with Chris O'Feely, who is going to paint the dances. It's really important. It's not just about the visual element of the piece, but there has to be more depth behind it. So there has to be a logic behind having a lot of this paint or this artwork done on each individual. So Chris O'Feely has been involved in this process and the research and development of it. We've been having meetings and he's been also giving me feedback and maybe ideas to enhance the choreographic element of it as well. So what's also important is not just to create on the dances, but just to bear in mind as well that there is a substance on them. How is that substance going to be relevant? What is it going to be merged with? There's this very interesting part in one of the myths in Prometheus about the clay. The first man made of clay. So this idea of having a substance around you, which is almost like clay, which is also interesting. So collaborating with Chris, I think, is going to be very important to the piece as well, and a really integral part of the overall look and aesthetic of the evening.